Hey guys, it's Holly. Welcome back to my channel. So I did a video last week on some of the advantages of being a massage therapist. And so just some of the pros, some of the good points, and I just pointed out just a few of my most basic points that I wanted to get across. So in this video, I am doing the disadvantages of being a massage therapist. And like I said in the last video I did, I do feel at this point in time that the disadvantages actually outweigh the advantages of this career at this point. Now, that's going to depend on different people, different factors, but I'm kind of going to get into this and I'm going to explain a little bit about why I feel that at this day and age and this point in time specifically, I don't feel like being a massage therapist, or shall I say getting started in the field, is a good idea. I think if you're already in it, like me, I have been in the field for over a decade now, and in that case, I think yes, there's still potential, and I think yes, you should still, if you want to, that you should still continue on with your career. And this is just my opinion. If being a massage therapist is something that you really truly want to do and you're just getting started, then I still say go for it, because doing what you love is very important. And if you feel legitimately that you can become successful, it's all about a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I'm going to explain a little bit about my personal experience, and let's get straight into it. So my number 3 disadvantage that I want to point out is, the first thing is the potential of being treated as though you are devalued. So what I mean by this is that this is a lot more likely to happen if you're working for a company or working for a massage parlor or spa, or just working for someone else in general, as opposed to working for yourself. So like with anything in the service industry is anything where you are providing any kind of service. You're doing, delivering food, anything food related, food service, etc. So this work kind of plays into that to an extent, because you're providing something for somebody else. And this is also kind of, it's hard to explain, but massage is not just a luxury. I mean, in my opinion, I feel it is a necessity, and it's very important for your overall health. But generally what can happen, to get straight to the point, is that people, clients, some can be quite disrespectful, and some just simply don't appreciate you and just kind of treat you as though you are second class. And I have experienced this a lot over the years, and especially in my earlier days, I would actually have clients would ask me when I was really young. They could see how young I was, and they would be like, oh, well, what are you going to do next? Are you just in college, and you're doing this on the side? And I was like, no, this is my career. This is what I'm doing for my career. And so ultimately they would be like, oh, wow, really? Well, you don't want to do anything else with your life? Like, you don't want to? And it was like really insulting, quite honestly. And so I experienced a lot of that early on. And a lot of people would just kind of be like, is this your side gig? And I'm like, no, I actually do this full time. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some people that choose to just do this on the side. But in my opinion, if you're going to go to school for something like this, spend all this money, go to trade school, and then have to do an internship, and each state has different requirements. Here in Texas, I think it's still 500 hours. And then you do continuing education every couple years. You got to renew your license. And in my opinion, if you're going to do all that, you may as well, at least do it part-time, and do it to an extent that it's going to be worth it. So again, being devalued, and that's just kind of my example of that. But like I say, with any kind of service job, there are always going to be people out there that are kind of going to view you as a little bit less, especially certain people, more wealthy populations that you might be working with, particularly in a spa environment or a more upscale environment. And so I did experience a lot of that, and it was very degrading to me. So that is one thing to consider. Now, with that being said, moving on to my second point, is getting hit on as a woman. Now, if you are a male massage therapist, this can actually still happen as well. It can happen from females, and you can end up being harassed physically, mentally, emotionally, and this can happen whether you work for yourself. It can happen if you're working for someone else. And I have, as an attractive young female, I've experienced so much of this over the years, and even to this day, I still experience stuff like that sometimes. And so my advice for that is, if anyone tries to harass you in any way, or say something inappropriate to you, or inappropriately try to touch you in any way, you just need to, if you're working for someone else, immediately notify them, and do not just stand your ground and say, okay, I'm not going to do this appointment. Like, I'm not going to work with this person that just inappropriately touched me, or whatever the case may be. And if they try to make you continue to do that, don't keep that job. And that's just my advice coming from me and my personal view, perspective, of personal experience of what I've been through in general. So ultimately, I can't even begin to tell you. I really wouldn't even know where to begin on what I have been through with this issue. And it is honestly the number one primary complaint that I personally have with this line of work. And that's just something that I have to deal with, and something that is something you have to deal with. And it's going to be different for everyone. Some people are going to experience it more than others. Now, what I do personally is, if someone tries to come on to me in a certain way, everybody's going to be different. A little flirtatiousness, I might let it slide, but anything that starts getting truly inappropriate, I just immediately cut off, and I will not work with the person anymore. And that is that. So when it does happen frequently, it can get very stressful. And especially if you're working for yourself, you do need to be extremely concerned, especially if you're a female, extremely concerned for your safety. And I'm not going to get into a whole lot of that right now in this video for time's sake, but I'll probably have to do a whole nother video on safety as a freelancing massage therapist that is self-employed, because that is a whole nother bag of worms, and I don't have time to open it right now. But you do want to be extremely careful when it comes to your safety if you're self-employed. So with that being said, the second point, to recap, is getting hit on and inappropriate harassment, etc. So like I say, that is my chief complaint with the business. So overall, my number one disadvantage, and I feel that this is true for most people in the industry. So number one is physical burnout and emotional burnout. Okay, so primarily physical, because massage therapy is a very physical job. It is blue collar, or technically I think they call it pink collar. It's a cross between the two. It's a little bit difficult to explain. You can look up pink collar and get a better idea of what I'm saying. But it is a very physical line of work. And the good thing about it is it's manual labor that you're doing inside. It's temperature controlled. You're able to control your movements to an extent, slow things down. But it is a lot of strength and strength training. And yes, we are taught proper body mechanics, etc. But you're on your feet for long periods of time. You are exerting a lot of energy. Whether, in school, they'll try to tell you, do this, do that. You won't lose your energy. You can do this many in a day. And to make a long story short, when I was in my early 20s, before I had kids, I was able to do, I still was only able to comfortably do about 4 to 5 massages per day max. And, that was in my early 20s when I was, and I'm still just as fit now. But that was before having kids and before having so much responsibility at home. If you have a lot of responsibility outside the workplace, say you've got young children or whatever that may be, a lot of other things going on at home or in other areas of your life, working for someone else in this industry is not going to necessarily be the best idea. And whenever I had kids, I soon found out, when I just had one and I was still working full time, I was able to do about 3 to 4 sessions per day, usually closer to 3. And that was really all I was able to do in order to be able to take care of him and do everything else I had to do. And so once I had 2 children, that went down to 2 appointments a day. So at this point, I don't think I've gotten, my youngest son is 3 now, and my oldest one is almost 7. So still to this day, I don't do more than 2 per day. And I do other things as well. Like I do gig work on the side, but I really just, I can't physically because there's so much on my plate. Now, if you don't have young kids at home, if you don't have a whole lot of other responsibility, yes, you can absolutely, definitely do more. So I'm also kind of a clean freak. I'm a little bit OCD, so I do a lot of housework as well. So that plays into me not taking as many appointments. So if you're the type of person where you just come home and watch TV or, relax, whatever, then obviously you're going to be able to do more. So the most massages that I ever did in a day was when I worked in a day spa in my early 20s. I was doing literally 8 to 10 sessions per day. And at this point, it was so difficult. I mean, I was so sore every day, like my arms would cramp up. And if you're ever getting to that point, like you've got to stop yourself and slow down and take a step back because you will burn out fast. And unfortunately for a lot of people, they burn out and they never go back. They just burn out like a light and that's it. So you really do have to watch that. And if you see that start to happen, you've got to scale back. There's so many other options you can look at, but obviously working for yourself, you're going to be able to control the amount of what you were doing. But I actually did have to quit one of my jobs. This was at the day spa. Simply because they were just giving me too many appointments. And no matter how many times I told them, hey, I cannot do this many in a day, they wouldn't listen to me. And unfortunately, this is true for many employers in this industry. And so they never would do anything about it. And so eventually I just simply had to quit. And I went and found a job that was much better suited for me. So with that being said, number one, physical burnout. And when it comes to the emotional part of being a massage therapist is you will notice that people tend to confide in you, almost like a therapist. And what I mean by this is people will talk to you and just want to kind of let everything out. Now, some people are very quiet, some people don't say much of anything, but a lot of people will start to kind of like spill their beans all over the place. And it's because maybe they don't necessarily have anyone to talk to, and they just simply want someone to talk to, someone to unload to. And me personally, I really enjoy this aspect. I enjoy hearing people's stories and, just listening to them. And as a very caring individual, as an empath, I simply enjoy this. And I like the fact that people feel like they can unload when it comes to me. But in the same point, that's also very difficult because it can take a huge emotional toll, especially if you're tired, if you've got a lot going on. Yes, you want to help the person, but it can be mentally and emotionally draining as well as physically. So I just want to point that out there as well, because some people will talk about some pretty heavy things. Some people will ask you for advice. Some people will even ask you for like major life advice. So anyways, with that being said, those are really the top 3 disadvantages, and in my opinion, guys. But like I say, the last thing I want to point out is that right now, at this point in time, if someone were to ask me, do you recommend going into this field right now? I would say no, absolutely not. And the reason I say that is because, number one, the COVID pandemic has very highly impacted this field. And so a lot of people just don't get massages anymore. And a huge factor is just simply the economy and the inflation, cost of living going up, etc. And so the main thing is that a lot of people just don't have the money right now for extra things. And so I've noticed like spas have been, in general, massage establishments, etc., have been slower by far since all of this happened. And I just don't think it's necessarily the best thing right now. Also, I feel like trafficking has really gone on the rise as well. And this is something that's been going on for a long time, but that's also another factor. And I don't know, it's one of those things. But there are several different factors that would play into me telling you that I feel like this is not the best career to get into right now. I don't know. At this point, I can't say I really know about the future of this business. I don't feel like it has the brightest future, if I'm being honest, at this point. And like I said in the beginning of this video, if you feel like this is what you want to do as a career, as a, you know, you want to do this, then just do it. This is just my experience. Yes, I have been in the field for over a dozen years. It's been 13, 14, almost 14 years now, something like that. So I've been doing this, like, it's all I know. But I just want to put that out there and make people aware that should you decide to do this, these are the things that you need to be aware of. And I do feel that the disadvantages definitely outweigh the advantages at this point in time. Now, 5 or 10 years ago, I would not have said that. I wouldn't have even said that a few years ago, but now that is what I'm saying. Just my opinion for what it's worth. But anyways, guys, I do plan to continue with my massage therapy business. I do have I have an LLC, PLLC, so I will continue to keep working. I don't have as many clients as I used to, just because, quite honestly, I've had to get rid of a lot of them, unfortunately, due to harassment and just inappropriateness in general. So I keep the ones, and I hold them very dear to my heart. They're like family to me. I keep the ones that I feel comfortable with, and every now and then I will get someone new, but it's usually someone that's referred through a close friend or an existing client or somebody that I really, really trust, like from church or a family member. So anyways, I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.